Hey guys, how you doing? Coach Steve here. Coming to talk to you guys a little bit about how to care for your gis. Your gis are an investment in your jiu-jitsu and your practice. You want to make sure we take good care of them and make sure we wash them regularly so you're not the smelly kid in class, okay? Real quick, there's a difference in the way you wash your gis, whether they're white or colored, obviously. Today we're going to be working with some colored gis. We're going to be washing our colored gis on cold. A couple of things when you get a new gi, you want to make sure that your first wash is going to be with a cup of white vinegar. That's going to help lock the color in, okay? So we're going to turn this one inside out. Make sure we get to where all the sweat starts, okay? Now that we've got our gis cleaned, time to dry them. You have two basic options on how you can dry these. You can slap this thing on a hanger, hang it up, and let it air dry. The problem with that is you end up with a stiff piece of cardboard at the end that you probably have to throw in the dryer for a little bit. Maybe 5-10 minutes on air dry will fix that problem, okay? That will help you with the life of your gi. If you want to get a faster dry, you need to use it the next day or maybe later on that day. Toss it in the dryer, right? And we always want to keep it in, medium heat. You don't want to go too high and cause damage to the fabric. You don't want to go too low and have to dry it over and over again. So medium, and you should be good to go. Once it's dry, we'll talk about folding and storing. We're going to talk about washing your white gis, okay? White gis sometimes are a little finicky, right? We treat them different than the colored gis because the colored gis we're worried about keeping them from fading, making sure we're not too heavy on them or beating on the material so that way, that it lasts longer, gets enough tugging in practice as is. So let's kind of save it during the wash. White gis are a little bit different. We kind of have to expose them to hotter water to lift stains. Other little things that help are using like Shout. Shout is great for removing stains. That's not a plug by any way. It's just what I happen to use. Another really good thing to put in with your whites is half a cup of distilled white vinegar. It really, really helps get that dingy kind of look out of it. The Shout would be for any excess stains like, blood or anything of that nature. Let's call it what it is. We're using, get a hangnail, something happens, a little rough practice, you might get a little blood on you, okay? So I've got my concoction kind of going in here already. This is the agitator that I was speaking about when we were doing the front loading with the color gis. This is another thing that will beat up your gis. This is why I suggest you wash and then hang dry. And then if you need to later on, you can do a fluff dry after the gi has hung dry just to kind of get that cardboard feeling out of it, okay? So I'm gonna add my vinegar. It's my last piece to this. I'm gonna let the water run a little bit. I'm gonna throw my gi in. I'm gonna come back and check on it, and then we'll go through the drying process. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about drying a little bit more. Previously I mentioned you can pop them right in the dryer. Low to medium heat works just fine. If you have the ability and the time, you can do an air dry, right? While it's going through that cycle, and that'll work. The other option is a lot less harsh on the material. That's the hang drying, okay? So you pop it on a hanger, you hang it up, you let it air dry that way naturally. Now, as I previously mentioned, the problem with that is you end up with this really stiff kind of dry cardboard feeling gi. So the best way to fix that is we're actually going to go ahead and go back to the dryer. We're going to pop it in real quick, but we're only going to do this for maybe 5 minutes. So usually what I do is I like to wash my gis as I go as best as I can. And so I'll have a couple of gis hang drying. And before I put my next load in, right, so I have a load of laundry right here ready to go. Because it requires such a short period of time to kind of soften these, I go ahead and I just throw 5-6 gis in there. It doesn't need too much of the heat, right? So we just put it in, we let it tumble for about 5 minutes max, and you have a nice soft gi, and you can throw your next load in and finish up that dryer cycle. Especially for me, I live in an apartment complex where we have to use quarters, and so you don't get to really play around with it the same way you would if you have your own at-home washer and dryer. So yeah, that's some more drying tips for you. Hope this helps. See you guys on the mats. You'll be looking good and smelling fresh.